Hi everybody, today I thought I would do a quick video on how to master your carbon black wax, and this also applies to dark waxes as well. It's been painted in old espresso, so 2 coats of old espresso, and it's been painted in all directions, so you can see some of the brush marks around. Where the lighter bits are, just through there, I've just lightly sanded that because I had a couple of drips. And so it's when you sand a darker colour or dark neutral, it will scuff. So you can see it's kind of scuffed that lightish colour and brought out the texture. But now that I've sanded that off, when I go to do my carbon black wax, it will go back to the same colour. So there's a bit of texture in there. I'm just going to go a little bit closer just to show. So quite a bit of texture in there. Now the reason why there's texture there is because I know I'm going to be applying a darker coloured wax, in this case a carbon black wax. And if I was to paint it linear one way, when I go to put my carbon black wax on, it will highlight all the brush strokes one way and risk it looking a lot streakier. So this way I've actually just painted messy with my brush in all directions, and lightly sanded any unnatural texture. So I've lightly sanded through there because I had a couple of drips, and I've lightly sanded the top a little bit where there might be, texture that I don't really want. And now that I've done that, everything else was fine. Now that I've done that, I'm getting ready to mix my carbon black wax. So let me get started, mix my carbon black wax, and I want to show you in this video how to master using a carbon black wax and highlighting and shading using just the one wax, but creating lots and lots of depth. Here I've got my Artisan clear wax and my premium chalk paint in carbon black on the paper. I've got some wax just kind of scooped out. I have some carbon black on a little bit of a teaspoon, and I'm just going to mix that together. And I'm going to try and do this with one hand so you can see. I want it quite strong. So there's a fair amount of carbon black wax in there, but the wax is still glossy. It's still soft. If I put too much carbon black in, that will appear matte, and it won't be as kind of spreadable. So I always kind of run my finger through it, just make sure that it does spread out, and it gives you an idea of how dense that coloured carbon black wax is. So you can see there, it's got some strength to it, but it's still sliding. And that's what I want. I want it to be quite strong on the old espresso. So I've mixed that through, and you want to make sure that everything is mixed thoroughly, that there's no blobs of paint unmixed, otherwise you're basically going to swipe black paint on your piece and not be able to move it. So it needs to be thoroughly mixed, and always recommend mixing it on a flat surface so that it allows you to thoroughly mix your wax like so. Once you're done, then you're ready for waxing. So I'll put you on a stand and we will get to waxing this piece. So I've got a Stylemaster 3600 pure bristle brush here. It's my wax brush of choice. It's a good size. It's going to allow me to spread my wax and so forth. I've got a clean lint-free rag here, and I folded it so that it's got a nice smooth pad, allowing me to wipe the excess wax off. So premium chalk paint, when you've painted it like this, when it dries like a chalky, lighter version of itself. It requires a top coat of either clear wax or lacquer for the colour to deepen to what it was designed to be. You can alter this colour by applying coloured waxes as well, which is what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to do a really deep version of Old Espresso. And Old Espresso raw like this, or even just with clear wax, let me just grab some clear wax on my brush before I dark wax it so you can see. So some clear wax, and I'll just put it over here. So you can see that that is the old espresso, the way that we've crafted old espresso to be with the clear wax. It's a really, really lovely espresso-like colour. It's such a sophisticated brown. It's not your regular brown. There's just a real depth and softness, and yeah, it's quite a beautiful colour. It's more like a neutral rather than a colour, so I should say neutral. So on its own, it's really lovely. But I'm going to go, we'll leave that there, and I'll put some carbon black wax on this one. So I'm going to pick up just a small amount, kind of like about that amount, and I'm going to start with one section. So let's start on this little section here, and I'm going to brush it out. And I'm going to make sure I brush that wax right out. Having the right tools and the right brushes when you're waxing is really important. It just allows, you know, everything to work a lot easier, a lot more effortless, and yeah, it just makes the job really easy and enjoyable. And it's always so exciting when you put coloured wax on, because you get to see it transform before your eyes. So there's my wax, I've got my rag, and there is an art to wiping off as well. So at the moment, the carbon black wax is soaking in through the porous chalk paint, and there's a layer that's on top. So chalk paint can only absorb so much wax, the rest of it sits on top, and that's the part that you need to wipe off. So with my rag, I'm going to wipe. And because I've got texture there, you know, by brushing in all directions, I can wipe in all directions as well. And it's not going to go streaky. And I'm basically going to wipe until the wax, I can see the wax is not moving anymore. Like so. And then I'm going to wipe through here. Very gentle pressure. Just kind of keep wiping until you've removed it. So there's the carbon black wax done. So you've got carbon blacks, clear wax, and raw chalk paint. Same colour, but treated differently. You can see it's night and day. So now I'm going to go through, and I'm going to go through this detailing part. And the neat thing about the Artisan wax is it's really soft, and you can work it in bigger sections, like in sections like this. It's not going to set straight away, so you don't have to worry. You have time to play with it. And I'm going to show you, even when it's starting to set, how to move it again. So that's done. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wipe the high points. And obviously there's some dip areas here, but all I need to make sure is that I get my brush in, I make sure that the amount that's gathered in there is a small amount, there's no big chunks or anything in there, and then wipe the surface, and it will give me a natural highlight, low light, and accentuate all the detailing. So that's that done, and then I'm going to move on to the next part. Like so. And then I'm going to fold my rag to a different section. If you don't keep folding your rag, you won't be just removing, you'll be kind of like just moving the wax around rather than removing. So it's important to just kind of every now and then keep folding your rag over and making sure that you've got a cleanish section or an area on your rag where it can absorb the excess wax. And so, just like so. spreading it out nice and thin. And then fold your rag and wipe. Wipe. So all I'm worried about now, in this first instance, I'm not worried about, you know, making it even or shadowing or highlighting or anything like that. I just want to use my carbon black wax to really just seal the premium chalk paint, and also to just make sure everything's coated in it, been waxed in it, and then afterwards I'm going to worry about detailing. So just get it on there. And the thing is, what you don't want to do is pick up too much wax, because if you pick up too much wax, it's just going to slosh around, and it's more than you need, and it's going to get quite messy. So, you know, work a small amount, pick up a small amount. It does spread really easily. And just brush it out. Use your Stylemaster 3600 brush to brush it out. It's an awesome tool for waxing. And in my opinion, I think when you're waxing, it's one of the times where you do actually need the right brush. Otherwise, yeah, you just don't get that kind of level of detail. So just get in there. Now, what I'm seeing here is this area here is a little bit darker. So I'm going to go, and that is simply because I've wiped firmer on this one when I first started the video, obviously getting very excited. So I'm going to go over it again and just darken it back up. And this time I'm picking really a light amount again and making sure I spread that right out. And then there's a very, very thin layer of wax on there, but it's enough to kind of darken it a little bit more. And then I'm just going to very lightly work it off. Now, if you're happy with that, that's all waxing is, right? But what I want to show you today is actually how to create a little bit more depth in your dark or black wax with just the one wax. So I have my clear wax here, and I'm going to just scoop a little bit out. Where am I going to do it so you can see? There, with my finger. And I'm going to grab my pure bristle brush. I'm just going to wipe any excess carbon black wax off at this point. And I'm going to use my clear wax to go through and do a little bit of highlighting. So what I mean by highlighting is I want to remove some of the carbon black wax and just lighten it up in areas to give it some highlights on the piece of furniture. Wax reactivates wax. So at any point, even if the wax that's dry, if I now apply clear wax over that, it's going to reactivate it and allow me to move the wax around a little bit more. So I'm applying clear wax on it, which is a non-coloured wax, like so. And I'm going to remove and highlight just through there. And I'm hoping you can see that. Yes, you can. So you can see the old espresso is coming back through, but I've allowed it to gather in here, and up here. So I want that pop of old espresso coming through. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side by applying my clear wax and just going through and adding a little bit of highlighting. And grabbing my rag to remove, like so. Beautiful. So I'm going to do the same over these doors, these panels. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to start removing just through here, just a little bit. Grab my rag and just pull back like so. And you can see that old espresso is coming back through. Like I said, if you like the stronger carbon black wax, you can leave it like that. There's actually a really nice look in itself. It's just what you like. But I thought because I was doing this, it would be quite good to show you, as a good opportunity to show you how to work with waxes and how to manipulate them a little bit, even if it's just the one layer of wax. Carbon black wax works particularly well with the darker colours, in my opinion. So the rich colours, the dark blues, the dark greens, it just helps to deepen it and make it look a little bit more sumptuous. It gives it a more of a modern kind of take over using dark wax. If I use dark wax on old espresso, it'd be really warm, quite vintage. And yeah, so it's not really the look I wanted for this. I didn't want it to be kind of antique-y, so I'm going with carbon black wax. I do want to age it a little bit. Carbon black wax is also really great for creating industrial style looks. And I'm going to use a little bit of bronzonite metallic glide on here. So it's going to work really well, and I'm super excited to see the end result. I mean, I think we all, when we start painting, and you just want to see the end result, right? So I don't know how, I'm a very impatient painter. But the neat thing about something like this, it's a basic one paint, one wax, and it's really fast. So you can see the highlighting, how it's working, like so, and it's really natural because of the way that you're doing it. You're doing the carbon black wax first, and then you're using the clear wax to remove. So it means that nothing's perfect. It's quite an organic process, and everything kind of looks a little bit more natural. It's like imperfectly perfect, if that makes sense. So, and that's kind of what we're aiming for. So grab my rag, go through and just blend all of that out, creating some highlights. You don't need a lot of clear wax. You can see, you can barely see the clear wax. I'm just kind of almost just like wetting the bristles a little bit with the clear wax. You don't want to like scoop plenty of clear wax and put it on. It doesn't need a lot, and it just gets messy, and yeah, it's not necessary. So allows me to kind of, I'm going to keep it a little bit darker through here. But I am going to pull it back all the way down, like so. And then I'm going to lighten these areas too, just through the center, just to give it some contrast and a little bit more depth. I'm going to allow the carbon black wax to sit in the detail. So I've just got a little bit of clear wax on my rag, and I'm just going to touch a couple of these high points just to remove some of the carbon black wax. And then I'm going to do the same through here. So you can see there, I'm just going to move the camera just slightly so you can see. Oh, you can see a little bit of the side there. So that's the original. And then you've got the carbon black wax and the pulled back carbon black wax. And I'm just going to blend these edges, just going to run my rag across and just kind of blend those out. Like so. So looking really, really cool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab a detailing brush. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the smallest amount of carbon black wax. And there's just going to go in and darken and dramatize, I suppose, if that's probably a good word to use, some of the shading. I don't want it perfect, that's for sure, but I just want to purposely shadow some areas. And if I'm brushing just a really, really thin amount on, like I am, so this brush isn't picking up a lot of wax, it's just picking up a small amount, I'm going to let that air dry and set on its own, rather than wiping it. So I might come back and wipe it just to make sure I've placed a really, really thin amount right at the end. But at this stage, I'm just gonna basically paint it on, if you like, just using my detailing brush to just spread it and darken and detail. So you can see that the trick here is it is really quick to do, so don't overwork it, you know, like don't follow the process and don't overwork it. I'm just going to wrap my rag around my finger, and where I've just done the shadowing, I'm just going to go through, make sure just on the edges that I blend that in, that there's no thick areas of wax sitting there, because that will take a long time to set. So just kind of make sure that everything is spread out, blended, and that there's no perfect lines or, you know, demarcation lines of that finer detailing. I want it kind of all blended so that it looks natural. Perfect. Now I'm going to go through and grab some bronzonite and bring it out a little bit more. So you can see from one coloured wax, or one neutral wax being carbon black wax, you know, you've got your light, your dark, your mid-tone. There's a lot of depth to it, and the piece of furniture is all of a sudden being really, really brought out. The lines have been emphasised. You know, there's some shadowing under there, some detailing. You're creating patina that looks like it's been gathered from years of being used. And it's just, it's brings the piece of furniture to life. So let me go and grab some metallic glide, because that's the next part that will bring it even more to life. Okay, so I am back, and I've just moved the camera around a little bit so you can see what I'm doing a little bit more. And just going on the camera, I can kind of see, you see this line here? It's so perfect. It's so like straight and down, and it looks a little bit unnatural. I've kind of pulled away too much. So I'm just going to go through and just kind of just break that line a little bit with my carbon black. Just put a very light coat on and just leave that to set a little bit. So I've got my metallic glides. I have bronzonite and forgotten gold. I'm going to use the two together just to give it a little bit more depth and make the details pop. This is a finishing product, so this is like last. So after you finish waxing, you put this on, it sets, and you're done. So I'm going to start off with bronzonite first, because that's going to be the one that I really want to be the dominant metallic. So that's it there. Brand new jar. Love opening a brand new thing. So I'm just going to, you can put some gloves on. Just pick it up with your finger. I'm not putting gloves on, obviously, but, you know, if you don't want to get your hands dirty, just chuck some gloves on and you'll be fine. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to run this, make sure I flatten it off. I didn't really flatten that off very well. So I'm just going to run this along this edge. I don't want it perfect. And I'm just going to, and it is a metallic glide, so you can actually see how I've gone over with my clean finger and just blended that in, because it does actually glide really beautifully. It's not so concentrated that it sets exactly where you put it. So there's a little bit of a give and a little bit of a play with it. Oh, I hope you can see that. Let me just move the camera like that. So it's just made that detailing just pop a little bit. I'm going to touch these floral detailings and do the same thing, just very, very lightly. The key is little to nothing on your finger. Make sure that your wax, your first wax, the carbon black wax, is nice and set. If it's still wet, it's not going to be as effective. So just give it a bit of air time to like set. And then you can kind of come back in and with your metallic glides and do your final detailing. Like so. And see, I don't know if you can see, but I've got it on the insides of that. I'm going to fix that in a minute and I'll show you how. Because I don't want any metallic glides in there. I just want the carbon black in there. Like so. And it's just having a play with what you want to highlight. So, in the event that you make a mistake, and in this case I have, because I've got it in on the insert there, I'm going to grab some carbon black wax on my detailing brush and I'm going to reactivate it, and it's going to allow me to remove it. So it's gone. And same with that one, and same with that one. Got a little bit through here, a little bit through here, and here. I mean, you know, applying it with your fingers, you're not going to be perfect, and you will probably get some in areas that you don't want. But that's okay. Like if you know how to remove it, then it's no biggie. Just keep going and then come back and remove the metallic glide from wherever it is that you want to. So now I'm going to pick up my Forgotten Gold. And I've used this one before, so not a brand new jar, but still. And I'm just going to flatten it off. I'm just going to add it here and there. This is my secondary metallic. So I don't want, it's just kind of like a way for me to add a little bit of depth to the bronzonite. So there'll be some goldy bits, some kind of bronzy bits, like a mixture, you know. I really do like mixing the metallic glides together. So I might not do, I'll leave it bronzonite through there. And now I'm going to go through and detail this area. Start off with my bronzonite and just touch the high points to start off with. And go through there. And maybe down there. Like so. And then I'm going to go through with my Forgotten Gold and just in areas, maybe these corners, just kind of mix it in, maybe the top corner and through there. It just gives it a little bit of a lift, I think, as well, like so. Now, I've got these handles here, and I can see I've missed doing some carbon black wax through there. So I'm going to grab my detailing brush and just pick up some carbon black wax and just kind of darken that area that I've missed. Just at the base there, and also on the side. Just get it under there. They're the original handles, and I've decided to leave the original handles on because it's such a quaint little piece. And I didn't want to really change the handles out or anything like that. But I am going to bring the handles out with a little bit of metallic glide. I'm going to go through and just do the edges. See, I've kind of gone over there quite a bit. So I'll show you how to remove it, or you probably already know. Now, just grab a little bit of my carbon black wax and work it. It will smudge it like that. And then I'm going to grab my rag and remove it. And then go again. Cool. And just let that sit. I'm going to now detail these legs, so I'm just going to touch the tops of them with metallic glide and run it down. I absolutely love bronzonite with old espresso and carbon black wax. It's just so pretty. Can you see there? Yeah. So again, just touching the tops and then gliding it down, blending it all the way down, like so. And I could even do the same with the bottom part and just blend it all the way to the top, like so. But I don't want to apply metallic glide on the whole thing. So blending it all the way up. And then I'm going to use my Forgotten Gold and do the same thing as I did with the others. Is just touch it, just to give it a little bit of depth here and there, and just blend it out. Same on this side. And same down here. Oh, I haven't waxed in there, but once you've carbon black waxed that, if you want to do the edges here, it's just a matter of framing that, the bronzonite. I'm going to go through and basically do that on the other two sides and the top, and that's basically a paint, a carbon black wax and a metallic glide finish. Okay, so we're all finished. Here is the piece. I have yet to take photos of it for the Artisan company, but I will do. I have just finished detailing the sides, the top and the other side. I've also painted the internals in a really bright poppy colour. I'm not going to show you yet what that colour is. You're going to have to wait to see the photos come up on the Artisan company page. But today is all about carbon black wax. I hope you've enjoyed watching a little bit behind the scenes of how I work with carbon black wax, and I hope it's inspired you to kind of reach out and not be afraid of the darker waxes. They work particularly well on the deeper, darker Artisan colours. It really makes the paint finish kind of just come to life. You really can't make a mistake with it. You apply your carbon black wax, and if you know that you can remove some of it with your clear wax, the clear wax works like an eraser, and that you can always go back, you can always remove, you can always lighten, you can always adjust until you're happy. You know that when you're first brushing out that carbon black wax, you don't have to freak out because you know how to adjust it. And hopefully the video also shows that you need to follow the process. You know, sometimes when you first brush out that black wax over your colour, you may freak out a little bit. It may not be what you're imagining, but just wait, you know, just keep going, apply it over the whole piece, and then come back your highlighting with your clear wax and wiping and adjusting, and then go through and do your fine shadowing, your darker detailing all around the areas, and you'll see that your piece will evolve as you go through the steps. This is just one base color and one carbon black wax and a little bit of pulling back and highlighting and a little bit of metallics. Really, really simple to do. Something that looks like it would take hours and hours and hours to do is actually not that long if you know how. So, you know, it's got a lot of depth to it. It's got some beautiful kind of mid-tones. It's got the really, really dark, deep areas. It's got some highlighted areas. There's a lot of depth to the piece, you know. It really does bring the piece to life. Absolutely loving it. It's so deep, it's earthy, it's neutral. It's so much more than a brown. Old Espresso is such a sophisticated neutral. You have the freedom and you know, the carbon black wax or even dark wax, because dark wax is a similar technique. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's all adjustable. It's nothing set in stone. The system allows you to kind of play with it till you're happy, and at the end you get to create something that's really bespoke, that you love, that fits in with your home and your space. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching, and I'll get the photos up on the Artisan Company page soon. I'll catch you guys later. Oh, look at my dirty fingernails. Bye.